Awake, it's me, Raven. Let's get started. Hello! I know the honk has not gone to bed, but said would. Oh. I'm sure that number is just way too low. That's a lie. The bot lies. It lies. You have redeemed a bunch of things right before you are about to leave again, haven't you? Little honk. What are you doing? That's nearly a pretty nice number. Does it lie? Does it lie in that case? Okay, well, honk. You have redeemed a bunch. I want to get started with reading. I don't have a bunch of times, but it looks like I have to do all of these. It's a requirement. Okay, I will do the redeems, and Lahonk will go eat. If Lahonk says to eat. No, because then you'll be gone, and then you'll be like, where was my redeem? I made a redeem. Raven is a liar, and I will be mad. If me and Lahonk are 68, then you and Fett are 33. Well, where is Fett's 33? That is bullshit. That is bullshit. The bot does lie sometimes, but I think 68% is accurate for you. Okay, how about this? I'll get started on a couple redeems while you guys tell me if you remember, if you were here for our last Creepypasta read. We ended with The Woman on Sticks, which was a very silly good time. And the author had two other stories by them. One is called Parts, and the other is called The Skin Collector. I have not clicked either to see how long they are, but there you go. So we either do one of those, which is not random, or we do a random one from Creepypasta, as we have been doing. So how about you guys, somebody get a poll going, because Raven apparently doesn't know how to do polls. I know how to do predictions, I don't know how to do polls. And I'll get started on sniffs and card dealing and dice. And first up, for Generium. Holy moly! I put a little cartoony voice there on that because I felt like having fun. Holy moly, holy moly, holy moly. I feel like whenever Generium gives us a good little nugget like this, I have to do it like 5 times because they're just so good. Hi, Pazuzu. I need to figure out my tongue trigger. Like the model can do the little tongue out, and I never figure it out. When I was at Vi's Apothecary, it was all set up, and I could even do cheek puffing, all the cool stuff. I have to scream at Vi, and then get Vi to scream at whoever helps her with tech, and then we'll do it. Okay, let's get started with the sniffs. Let's do that. We'll do sniffs. Do-dee-dee-doo. Do-dee-dee-doo. I'll get the sniffing on. was sniffs. I felt like hurting myself that time in the sense, let me explain. I did an ab workout for it. Instead of doing the sniffs originating from nose, I did very much from the diaphragm. So I got a bit of an ab workout. Big sniffy sniffs. It's Raven cool. God damn it. You guys, can you do a real poll, please? Can you do the real one? Please. And the answers are yes and also yes. You little shits. Get the real poll, jeez. I don't know what you want me to make a poll for. I'm sorry. I thought I was clearer. It's 2 story options for the creepypastas tonight. Either we do random or we do at least one of the it's okay. We do one of the ones that's by the only 2 votes. Jeez, guys. No. One that's by the same writer that we had the last creepypasta. What day was that? The 7th. On the 150 stream. So it's either random or more from cool author. And we have 2 different stories if you want to make it a 3-part vote. But we have parts or we have the skin collector. Those are the titles. So there you go. But I'm going to do card dealing. And then I'm going to do dice. And we'll even get Herbert in here for a quick sing. So you got time. Thank you for that poll. It's very nice. Okay. What was it was card dealing next. Yes, Raven? Yes. Sometimes I click it before I've done it. Like I say it's done before I've actually done it. And so I'm like, oh, I didn't get rid of one, did I? Lahonk would tell me. Okay, card dealing. No, Lahonk would lie to me. Never mind. Okay. Cards. Ah! And now we're gonna do dice. I see nobody has voted at all for what story we read. I'm disappointed. I am disappointed. But I can roll dice. I think I will roll a d4, and if it is 1 or 4, it's random story. If you want to vote, how about this? I'll give you a little bit more time to vote. And then if nobody vote by the time I figure out my redeems, or we haven't really got a good thing, I feel like, yeah, the D&D solution is the die. You didn't notice the poll. Okay. Try again, Mask. Do the poll again. I feel like we'll get it this time. We'll get it this time. I'll keep doing my dice. Okay, so the dice have gone away. Whoop, 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 whoop. You're very eepy. It's okay. It's alright. If there was no vote, I would have just done the die. It'll be okay. Skin snatcher. Skin collector. But yeah. Same vibe. Same. Yeah, I'm gonna do... No, you're good, Mask. You're good. And then I'm going to... You're okay. It's the right vibe. Also, I like alliteration. It's nice. I'm gonna do Singing Frog until the vote timing is up. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Leather jacket. I think no. But okay, here we go with Herbert. And there was Herbert. Herbert the Herbert. Okay. I see the trend we're headed towards. There's still time to vote. I will. I'm gonna do one for me while we still have time. Brushes. Okay. I'm going to take off the little cover. You're naked. Okay. Okay, cover going back on. It's gonna have a little bit of a bonk. There you go. It's not a rigged poll. You're the one that made it, Mask. What the heck? What the heck? Alright. Oh, yes. It's looking pretty clear which way we're gonna go. Okay, I will go ahead and click it. Parts. So, I am stirring chaos. Well, okay, you did do that. All right, so we're gonna do Parts by the same author that had done The Woman on Sticks. And we're gonna get that all sorted out. Oh, shoot. This is a very long read. This is all that we will be reading tonight, I bet. This is... Oh, boy. Will we read parts and parts? We might. Oh, no. This is very long. I'm glad I didn't promise that we would read both of the stories. I'm glad I made it an option to choose one or the other. Wait, I'm gonna see... Hold on. I'm gonna see how long the other one would have been. Just wasting time for us, which is a bad idea, but... Also long. Like, comparatively long to the one we read before, but still twice as long as that is the one we're about to read. Oh boy. We will read one story tonight. Oh, fun. Okay. Here we go. Parts by Corbin Groshek. He was called Old Man McConnell, but Jared McConnell never considered himself old. He was barely over 60, for Pete's sake. But then again, he never considered himself rude, unpleasant, smelly, or a social outcast. But ask anyone else in Lakota City if he was, and they'd answer yes in a heartbeat. In fact, ask the local school kids, and they had even worse things in mind. In some stories, he built kid catchers out of the stuff thrown away in his junkyard. In others, at midnight, under a full moon, he transformed into a big, hairy monster and kneaded the brick walls and giant sliding gate that enclosed his business to keep him from wandering at night and eating people. Some of them often wondered how he could even get hairier than he was during the daytime, but there was no arguing with the rumors of curious children. However, were a distant memory that evening as he slugged back another bottle of Jack Daniels while wandering his junkyard. The last few nights he hadn't returned home but fell asleep in his office on a sofa he'd received from someone who didn't know quality when they saw it. It just didn't fit the way I've decorated my house now, she had told him. He decided to keep it in his office as a makeshift bed when he was just too drunk to move, and as comfy as it was the only thing he had that was worth anything. He had never wanted to be in the junk business. He wanted to be an antiques dealer. He'd been a great fan of Antiques Roadshow and hoped just one of these days someone would bring a lamp or old wardrobe that he could get appraised for millions and leave this town. Lakota City, despite its name, wasn't really that big, though it was unique in that it was located on an island in the middle of Lakota Lake, with a single bridge connecting it to the mainland. It was a lot like Mackinac Island, except without the rustic charm, the horses pooping in the streets, or the booming fudge industry. But tonight wasn't a night for sleeping. He had been awoken every night right around 1 a.m. by a clattering and clanking noise, like someone jumping around. He didn't know how they were getting in because the brick wall with its razor wire was tall enough to discourage entry, and he had the only key to the front gate, which he kept with him at all times. Even if someone tried to bust the gate, it would take a lot of force and make enough noise to attract the attention from the nearby subdivision. It was probably kids. It was always kids that did this kind of stuff. That was why Jared was so happy not to be one anymore. Being a kid was a nuisance. He held out his near-empty bottle. "You'd better not be out here tonight. If you are, I'll get you, throw you into this old barrel of... He kicked the barrel. Oh my gosh, I need to cough. He kicked the barrel, putting a dent in it and making an awful clang. "What were you full of? Don't lie to me, I'll find out." He hummed to himself while wandering, taking another swig of his drink, clearly reaching a state of inebriation that would make any attempt to catch a thief in his junkyard completely pointless. Oh my gosh, my voice is a mess. Hold on. Okay. He hummed to himself while wandering. Inebriation. Couldn't catch a thief. Yes. "No, not the barrel. I'll beat you till you're flatter than... He kicked a piece of sheet metal aside. "This sheet metal. Then I can just mail you to the cops. Nice, small envelope with a little window in it so they can see how flat I got you." What was I talking about? He stumbled and knocked over a pile of old, rusting tin cans. "Get out of my way, stupid cans. Worthless. Bunch of old beans and chili. Should be cans filled with money, not old farts." He kicked the cans, some of which went scattering into a pile of old tubing, along with some old hardware parts. "Come on out, you panty wastes." What? Panty wastes? Okay, you want my junk? My old useless, rusting heap of junk? Like it'll do you any good anyway. Nobody wants this crap. He started throwing the leftover cans at some old broom handles, sticking up out of a pile of old kitchen junk. "Stupid, worthless junk. Why couldn't you be worth more than a couple of bucks? Now I'm stuck with you until this island flips over on itself. That's... Islands can flip, right? This is so silly. It's like a 10-year-old writing an old man. But at the same time, we know it's not. Sorry. The way it was at the start was so different. The way he's talking to himself is so childlike. Okay. A large clang came from behind him. He turned, smiling. Gotcha. There's nowhere to run now. He ran back, finding the empty barrel that once held something, flipped over on its side, gently rocking back and forth. McConnell went to rub his chin, and in thought, he missed. So he went to put his hand on his chin, and he missed it. He's that drunk. You're close by, I know it. Just come out, and I promise it'll be over quicker than your last date. He looked blearily in each direction, but couldn't see anything. No, wait. There, something shifted in a pile he'd wandered by before. He rushed over, bottle brandished like a club, ready to bash either the skull or the keister of whoever was sneaking around. But then he saw no one. Other than the rubber tubing and the old hardware, there was nothing. Then he heard the sound of a table saw starting, but that didn't make any sense. He didn't have a table saw out here. When he finally located the source, his screams were loud, but not as loud as somebody trying to blow open the lock on his front gate. Oh no! Okay. I think the old man's gone and someone's breaking in. There's stars, the story's broken up, and we go in. Hello? McConnell? You still taking old crap? Sorry, I thought it was talking crap. It's taking old crap. Or just in the middle of taking a regular one now. Ha ha ha. Ha ha, a regular crap. It was early morning, but outside the large gate that led into Jared McConnell's junkyard, Jules Riley was beginning to get mad. He'd been standing outside the gate for over 20 minutes now, and even though the junkyard should have been open for almost 2 hours already, the gate was still locked. Wait, but I thought someone broke in. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Next to him, already unloaded from his pickup truck, was his old washing machine, and considering how much of a bear it was to unload, he was not going anywhere until he got Old Man McConnell to take it, even if it meant ripping the gate out by the hinges to do it. Jules was not known as a patient man. At nearly 6.5 feet tall, he was one of the tallest people in the island town of Lakota City, along with that and the unsuccessful chain of steakhouse restaurants he owned called Riley Fine Dining. He was used to getting his way. And one thing he wanted was to dump off this washing machine that could barely hold more than a small load of laundry. As a very important member of the community, he needed there's a TM, very important member of the community, TM. He needed something to handle clothing that befit a man of his stature, both physically and socially, and the TriStar 3-in-1 washer-dryer-presser combo was just the thing he needed. Recently, his ex-wife had taken the dryer a few days ago, but left him the washer knowing full well he didn't care for it. So he took care of the problem the best way he knew how. Money. He thumped on the gate with his fist once more. He heard something rattle on the other side. I can hear you over there, McConnell. Open up. The rattling stopped, but nobody responded. At this point, Jules pulled out his phone. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Jules pulled out his phone. Hello? Police? Oh, hey, Jim. It's Jules Riley. Fine, thanks. Look, I'm over at McConnell's junkyard. He's supposed to be open, but his gate is still locked. And that's totally a reason to call the police. Karen. Anyway. In response to the officer on the other end, he looked around the side of the wall. Yes, his vehicle's here, though considering how many times he's been locked up for drunkenness, that's not really surprising. But somebody has to be here. I keep hearing noises. But he's not responding. You mind sending someone over here to see what's up? Yes, I'll be here. I'm not lugging this damn washer back to my house. What? Yes, I replaced it with a TriStar 3-in-1. Yes, very nice. Works like a charm. Oh, I definitely recommend it, though. How much do you make in a month? It's all right. I won't tell anyone. Yes, you may need to set aside 3 paychecks for it. Yes, all of them. Yes, it does get clothes that clean. Would I lie? Anyway, you can send somebody here to... Can you send somebody here to get the hermit out of his shell, please? I have an opening next week to prepare for in North Lake. Yes, finally got them to give in and allow me to buy up that old carpet store to refurbish, but I can tell you all about that later. Okay, Jim, have a good day. So, Jules is being a little shitbag. Not only calling the police because he won't open his door, but also because while talking with the police, he's judging him for how much money he makes. Fuck off, Jules. Okay. Jules hung up inside. He really hated Jim Wilson, the town's only detective, but Jules had to at least pretend to be nice to him, since having the law on your side... Since having the law on your side was never a bad thing. There you go. Jeez, Raven. About 15 minutes later, a squad car pulled up and Larry Bedloe got out. Jules didn't know Larry too well, and as Larry was new to the force and seemed to be one of those people that tried so hard to be serious and conscientious that he overcompensated and ended up looking like an idiot most of the time. Even now, while trying to look official, he caught his toe on the gravel driveway that led up to the main gate and stumbled, correcting himself, but looking as if he knew how goofy the misstep looked. Hello, Mr. Riley. McConnell not opening his gate, eh? Yes, I don't know what he's gotten into now, but my guess is a large delivery of scotch. One moment. Larry reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. We had a key made last time he slept it off at the station, just in case something like this happened again, but, don't tell anybody. He doesn't know about it, and we're technically not supposed to have this. Wouldn't dream of it. Jules smiled, his mind racing as he thought about how he could put this new knowledge to his advantage, coming to the conclusion that keeping it to himself might prove the most useful. For now. But if you could hurry it up, please, I am a busy man. Sure, 1 second. Larry jammed the key in the lock, and after a few awkward seconds of working with the lock, he managed to pop it open and slid the giant metal door open. Both of them looked beyond the gate, at first blinking in growing shock. Then Larry fumbled at his radio. Dispatch, we're gonna need some help down here at the McConnell lot. It's pretty bad. And then there's stars again, and it interrupts and then picks back up. Jake woke to the sounds of a truck beeping. He looked over at the time and saw it was closing in on 10. Rats. It was a weekend and he had slept in. Getting up for school at 7 was a bear, but 10 when he could be watching TV, eating cereal, and picking out a Nintendo game to play? Not good. Okay, so we're dealing with a child. Oh boy, let's be nice to Jack, please. Or Jake, not Jack. He could hear his sister Lily already had the TV on, but it was the beeping outside that was the biggest draw. Blearily, he shuffled downstairs and into the kitchen, getting out a bowl of Apple Jacks before going into the family room. The TV was on, but Lily wasn't in there. Weird. Why start streaming Captain Marvel and then leave? Lily, where are you? He heard footsteps, and instead of just answering him, Lily came in from the side entrance near the garage and grabbed his hand. You're missing it, come on! Dragging him reluctantly to the side door, he was always surprised how someone that much smaller than him and a year younger could still be that strong. Jake looked out and saw what all the fuss was about. He nearly dropped his Apple Jacks. The 97 Corolla had picked up many nicknames over the years. The Cramp Mobile, Old Smelly, 200,000 plus. When are we getting a new car? And so on. But their father said as long as the car still worked, they were going to keep using it, though his definition of still working came with caveats. The shocks had gone bad once, That had been an interesting week to be in the back seat. The thing burned oil by the gallon, and there was no USB to charge the switch or play music without an auxiliary jack. And the one thing they had was frayed and had to be held in to work. It was also supposed to get a new nickname, Jake's car, as once he got his license, it'd be his to drive. And along with it, the admiration of his friends who were still licenseless. But apparently, it was not to be. His dad had been coming home from work on Thursday when a car skidded into the side of him, knocking him into the bridge wall leading over the water. He didn't have any injuries, thankfully, but the car had been in the shop, and Jake had been praying that this finally might be the straw that broke the old noise-making camel's back. His prayers had been answered. A tow truck was backing a lovely, pristine, and by all accounts new vehicle into the driveway. A black sedan, likely with enough updates to be a proper part of this century. Jake's hands involuntarily began to shake with glee. Despite his joy, his dad, standing in the driveway and shaking the driver's hand as he pulled the switch to lower it down into place, seemed a lot less enthusiastic. But when he saw the kids at the side door window, he waved and gave more of a smile and gestured that he'd be right in. It was a few minutes before their dad came in and told the story about how all this happened. Jake heard it a bit like this. I know we all love that old car, blah, 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 totaled, blah, blah, used car dealer next door, blah, 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 reasonable price, doesn't have all the bells and blah, 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 frogs and castles, blah, 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 make do with less until it is paid off. But we at least have a vehicle now. This is more of the reasons that we like this author, why we had to come back. He was sure he misheard when he heard frogs and castles, but the general gist of, we have a new car, was all he really cared about. He couldn't wait to sit in it and see all the new features. It was almost, quite literally, like having Christmas in July, even though it was still June, and summer vacation was a week away. Lily pretended to look a little down, but Jake knew she didn't like the old car any more than he did. Either that, or was she really good about lying to him about her disgust? What happened to the old car? Probably on its way to McConnell's right now for scrap. Doesn't have any resale value. Just as he finished saying it, his pocket buzzed. Dad pulled out his phone. Hello? Oh, hey. What? Oh. Huh. What can I say? I knew him well, but sorry to hear that. Guess there's nothing anyone can do right now. All right, well, thanks for letting me know. He hung up. Dealership calling. Can't move the car right now because something big happened at McConnell's last night. Police are all over. Sounds like he might have died or something. News travels fast on an island, eh, kids? Jake and Lily looked at each other. Old man McConnell dead? How could that happen? Especially without a cross or silver bullets being involved. 'Cause he's a monster, remember? Okay. Well, enough bad news. Hey, Jake, if you want to take the cars for a spin later, let me know. I'll be up in my office. And Lily, if you want to take the car for a spin later, no. So, okay, I guess Jake is old enough to have a driver's license. I thought he was a little bit younger, considering he was talking about cartoons. But hey, fair enough. I like cartoons. I am older than child. But okay. And I'm also remembering that the woman on sticks, the kid was Jake. It was Jacob, wasn't it? So, is this the same Jake? If this is the same Jake, this is just more to his lore. Oh, and I'm excited. Okay, so, yes, alright. Lily's too young to go for the spin, but anyway. Lily rolled her eyes. She should have had her learner's permit by now, but she flunked the test, even with it being open book. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. And we will break for redeems at some point, but I'm going to go a little while longer before we do that break. Okay. Even though the test was an open book, turned out she had an old edition that had some local rule change that screwed local rule changes that screwed her up. And while she had the basics right, it was enough wrong answers to keep her from being street legal. Dad had said no permit, no drive. Oh, that's just not fair. This did not stop Jake from giving her a ha ha sort of look. Okay, Nelson. When Dad finally left the room, Jake went to get in the car when Lily grabbed his arm again, much harder this time. Hey, what's the deal? What? Lily brushed her long hair out of her face with her free hand. You'd rather sit in the car all day than see what happened to old man McConnell? Well, yes. Wait, what? I'm confused which one of them is talking. But anyway, well, yes. Lily rolled her eyes again. We have all weekend to check it out, but if the police are there, we only get one chance to see something we never get to see. Lily, I don't want to see a dead body. Come on, with the movies we watch, those are fake. Lily grinned an evil grin. So you're saying you're scared? That's an easy way to get a young man to do the thing. Call him chicken. Oh boy. Jake had always been a fan of horror movies, and when he was younger, he loved to scare Lily with them. Trouble is, as they grew up, he still liked them, but Lily started to love them. She was not what anyone would consider a goth, but Jake was afraid that maybe he'd given his sister a weird sense of taste. In her room, she had 3 posters: Captain Marvel, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and Street Trash, a really low-budget flick from the 80s they had found one night in their dad's movie collection and watched on a whim. They were scared of liquor stores for a month, and yet there it was, a poster of a guy melting into a toilet, staring right at him when he entered the room. Does that mean turning into a toilet or melting and that melt fall into? Either way, no, ick, okay. It was frightening, yet awe-inspiring at the same time. Of course, he had no right to complain with his many anime posters, Return of the Living Dead, Tarman figurine, and that Skinwalker bust he picked up from Nathan's general store the other week. She just had more obscure tastes than he did. But she had him. If she was willing to go, so was he. As much as they would say openly they couldn't stand each other, neither could say no if it was to be afraid of something. Huh? Oh, yeah. Neither could say no if it was about being afraid of something. All right, fine. Guess I'll have to get my bike. And then the story has another little break. Okay. And then we jump in again. The police had set a blockade around the junkyard, but it wasn't particularly big, and other than directing traffic, they didn't seem interested in shoving anyone away. Not that there was a big crowd. The junkyard sat at the end of their neighborhood, and despite the death of the town's most infamous hermit, most people had probably decided a Saturday was too good a day to waste on gawking. Jack and Lily, though. Oh, well, now his name is Jack. It was totally Jake before, wasn't it? Yeah, it was definitely Jake. I think that this is just a typo. Jake and Lily. Okay. Jake and Lily, though, on their bikes, looked on from about 40 feet away as a stretcher finally came out from the gate, covered in a white sheet. 2 EMTs struggled as they attempted to push it into the back of the ambulance. The body underneath did not appear to be properly shaped, but for the life of them, Jack and Lily couldn't figure out why. Why are you calling him Jack again? That's not his name. I guess he's Jack now. Never mind, he's not Jake, he's Jack. Ugh, whatever. Okay. They couldn't figure out why it wasn't the right shape. Finally, coming out of the gate were 2 men. One wore an overcoat like he was trying to look like a detective in a 1970s cop show, despite the oppressive June heat and humidity, and the other was a younger cop in uniform. Both nearly slammed into the washing machine that had been left at the gate. Suicide? Suicide? You're going to tell me that the coroner thinks that was suicide? The younger cop shrugged as the detective pulled a cigarette out and lit it. Jack and Lily giggled. They knew a recent ordinance banned all smoking on the island, but the detective apparently didn't care. They even saw the younger cop wince, knowing the rule as well. The cop's breaking the law! Okay. Well, sir, I checked the videotapes. He only had them on the outside, but nobody approached the gates at all until Mr. Riley came this morning. Quite literally, he was the only one that went in there. There's no other explanation. You're a dumbass. So what? He decides he can't take it as the owner of a junkyard anymore, decides to end it all, and throws himself chest first onto an old saw blade in his yard? Not exactly the most elegant suicide in the world. Well, we all know he wasn't well liked, but he never really got into fights with anyone. Nobody has a motive anyway. The detective took a giant puff on the cigarette, burning it almost halfway to ash. And explain to me, Larry, explain to me, how exactly does a man go leaping through the air to land on said saw blade when his arms and legs were already... Sir, please, I haven't been here that long. I don't want to be reminded of it, and that's not quite true. We still haven't found his right arm, so we're not quite sure if that was gone before or after. And then somebody at some point came in. If it was after the... Oh my gosh. Okay, dum-dums. Dum-dums. Okay. Lovely. Did you think you'd see something like this when you graduated the academy, Lawrence? No, but I didn't think my first job would be out here either. You have a lot of enemies, Lawrence? No, not that I know of. Check again, especially with your faculty. You might be surprised. Anyway, let's close it up. Nothing left to see here anyway. Come check out here maybe every hour or so to keep away looky-loos, not that there's anyone here that would care. But, sir, maybe we shouldn't talk about this out here. Lawrence looked over at Jake and Lily. And now his name's Jake again. Okay, fine. I'm just squeamish with... I'm sorry, Mask. Yes, it looks like they maybe did. Okay, Lawrence looked over at Jake and Lily. His name's Jake again, not Jack. Pick one. Okay. Smiling weakly and waving. The detective turned to see them as well, also waving, but not giving a smile. Hey, kids, come to see a dead body? Well, it's not as much fun as it sounds. Run off to school and get a good job so you won't have to. Sir, it's Saturday. I know it's Saturday! He did a giant, all caps, screamy scream. Am I frozen? Looks like I'm moving. Forgive me, my queen for my lateness. No, Dawn. I don't keep attendance. You're not late. Queen? My goodness, no. Maybe it's on your end? Oh, I think so, but maybe somebody else can confirm. I look like I'm moving. A shaky shake. Let's see. It's a little delay. But there's my shaky shake. Okay. Not frozen. Okay, good. Alright, yeah, the detective yells, I know it's a Saturday! As the detective continued to rail out against the world in general, Lily leaned over her bike to Jake. Well, looks like the fun is over. Let's go. While Lily turned her bike to go, Jake watched for a minute longer. Something about the conversation had struck him as strange. If it wasn't suicide, somebody had to do it, but nobody came in and nobody left, according to the cameras. Someone's living in that junk heap. Jake, you coming, or did you want to see if we can get a ride in the ambulance? No. Jake watched the detective continue to blow up, railing against the department, against his luck, and against life in general. Oh, silly, silly detective. Okay, the story breaks and picks back up. I think we'll go a little bit longer. As Jake had explained, once they had gotten out of earshot of Detective Wilson, whose name they finally learned between more ranting, his plan had nothing to do with sneaking in and getting into trouble. No, his was to see if he could do what the cops couldn't or didn't feel like doing, catching who really did it. Sure, maybe he wouldn't be able to drive the new car all that much, but if he caught a criminal red-handed, it'd be even better than having a car. He might even make it in the newspaper. Lily had been on board for the idea immediately because it was dangerous in all the right ways, but she also remained skeptical on his quest for glory idea. You really think a murderer is going to come back to the scene of the crime? No, Lily, no one went in and no one came out. I'll bet whoever did it is still in there, waiting for the right time to leave. Probably been hiding in there for days and the police haven't even considered it. So you want to wait until the person comes out and then what? Hit them with the brick? Jake had pulled out his phone. You know where Mom put that portable battery charger, right? What do you take me for? What do you take me for? Of course I do. So after a stop home to dig around in the items that were taken away due to misbehavior, a drawer that was surprisingly more full these days than when they were little kids, to get the charger as well as a selfie stick, a remnant from Mom's days in college that she preferred to forget, they headed back to the junkyard. They knew full well there were cameras that were probably watching them, but considering they were trying to help the police instead of break the law, they didn't worry too much. In fact, maybe the footage would let them know who to thank at some point. This is a terrible idea, folks, but okay. Moving to the back of the lot, maybe 20 feet from what would be a lovely view of the lake if it weren't for a beat-up old dock with a leaky rowboat attached to it, they put their plan into action. Hitting the record button on their phone, then holding the selfie stick by the very end, they lifted it to the top of the brick wall and pushed it between the razor wire, hoping that the view would be a good one of the area below. If there was anyone hiding in there, they wouldn't be hiding for long, and nestled among the razors at the top of the fence, the camera would be safe too. Then they went home until well after they should have been asleep. Okay. Sneaking out after everyone in the house was asleep wasn't a regular thing for them, but for Lily especially, it wasn't unheard of. Neither had been caught, yet, but Dad was already suspicious because he had noticed Jake hadn't been on his phone most of the day, which definitely was unheard of. Taking their bikes, we have some editing hiccups throughout this story. The writing is good, but the editing needed help. Taking their bikes, it had been a long wait to return to the junkyard that night. Okay, fine. As Detective Wilson had pointed out, nobody was there, just the street barriers and the tape stretched across the door, which was shut. The area was deathly quiet, even other houses, some distance away down the street, were silent and dark, and no traffic came down the street. Being as quiet as they could be themselves, they parked their bikes under a tree near a street lamp and snuck through the trees and grass until they got back to where the selfie stick was hung from the wall. Ooh. There was a little bit of disappointment as they saw the stick had twisted a little and may not have been at the best angle to capture footage. With a portable charger keeping it going and Jake having turned down the quality, there was still plenty of footage recorded and even about 20% battery left to skip through it. The video before the stick had twisted was great, showing a wide swath of the junkyard back area, a wide open space that if anyone was hiding, they would have to come into view at some point. They sat in the grass and watched. For a very long time, nothing happened. While they could speed up the footage, it was at least 10 minutes before something finally came into frame. The picture was blocky and fuzzy from the compression, but after slowing it down, it looked like... Lily squinted. A hubcap? Must have come loose from a pile. But if it's been stacked there a while... They looked at each other. It wasn't exactly proof, but chances were it didn't just slip on its own. Could have been a rat or a raccoon, but something shifted it off its pile. They watched some more. Something else rolled in from the other side, and Jake slowed the footage again. Is that a barrel? Jake shook his head. Maybe one of those construction road barrels. It's too wobbly looking to be wood or metal. With the footage slowed back down, the sound came back on, and there was something else noticeable in the background. That's a lot of clanging, isn't it, Lily? Even for a junkyard? An empty junkyard? Definitely. And then they came into frame. At first it looked like 3 people in bad robot Halloween costumes, but as they twisted and turned, they both gasped. People couldn't be that thin or full of holes and still be alive. One's torso was made entirely from an old weather vane, used to hold up its water hose arms. The other, crouched down, more animal-like, built from sharper bits of metal and debris. Another had a unicycle wheel for a foot, and used one long arm to propel itself forward and back. It's things made out of junkyard parts. Jake stared wide-eyed at Lily. How are they walking around? Jake, they're not just walking. He turned back to the video where the creatures removed something from a pile. 2 of them, Wheelie and Sharpie. That's their names. Wheelie and Sharpie removed something from a pile that had been hidden there. It looked like a pile of plastic tubing and cardboard, along with a saw blade and what looked like old kitchenware. The 3rd creature, Weathervane, appeared to be on lookout, but then turned to the other 2. Its mouth appeared to be made of an old drill, and it whirred briefly like it was talking. The others nodded, with Sharpie grinding its bladed teeth in apparent glee. Weathervane wandered out of sight, only to slowly return some time later with a large object. A washing machine. That's the one that was at the front gate earlier. They watched as the creatures took the washing machine and tipped it, taking the rubber tubing and stretching it out, sticking it onto the washing machine as if they were arms and legs. Weathervane then leaned in, sparks flying as it drilled? Welded? Anyway, it did something, and the tubing fused to the washing machine. This went on like this for probably about an hour or so, building another one of themselves but bigger. If the washer was its body, it would likely stand well over 10 feet tall. A head made from a cardboard box, flaps cut and colored to make eyes, a bicycle spoke for its left hand where a saw blade was attached, a set of old tinker toys to make a right hand, and a knife placed into it. The feet, one a skateboard, the other a head of a carpet shampooer, and then they brought the final devastating piece. Inside the head they placed an old speak and spell. After a moment, the giant rose, creaking and grinding, and then, over the tinny phone speaker came a chilling reply. Parts. P-A-R-T-S. Revenge. R-E-V. And then it left the screen. As it did so, the others looked on in what could only be described, despite their lack of ability to show emotion, awe. Then Sharpie clicked its head to the side, looking up at the wall. It seemed to stare right into the camera. It came closer, peering directly into it, then swiped. The picture then swiveled abruptly and pointed at a corner of the wall. Lily gripped Jake's arm, but that wasn't the worst of it. About 30 seconds or so later, the picture began to slide, coming over the top of the wall, down to where the video images of Jake and Lily took it before shutting off the video. They looked at each other, gulping in unison. It probably left by the time we grabbed it. Jake nodded. Sure. It clearly didn't see us coming to collect our camera after witnessing it make a giant version of themselves, and surely it wasn't waiting in the dark for us right now, ready to do to us what it did to Old Man McConnell. They're scared. They looked at the blind corner they had come around, which led to the street, where their bikes were parked under the street lamp, with a whole bunch of darkness and trees between them. There was only the sound of the lake slapping the shoreline. You go first. No, you. Ladies go first. That's for emergencies. You don't think this is an emergency? Lily sighed. Hold my hand, and we'll run together on 3. Despite wanting to complain about it being weird and uncool, Jake knew it wasn't the time to argue. Just hold your sister's hand. Shut up. He, too, sighed and took her hand. 1, 2... Before he could finish, Lily yanked him along, driving through the darkness toward their bikes. In the dark, what they had just seen was both intensely real and unreal at the same time, both making them feel stupid and motivated at the same time. Whatever was going on, it wasn't following them. It was off doing something else, or wasn't what they... 10 feet from their bikes, a loud drilling sound came from behind them. They ran faster than they ever thought possible. Lily hopped on her bike, taking off while Jake was only a second behind. It was in that extra second that Weathervane struck, grabbing hold of his leg. Jake screamed as he could feel the cold metal on his ankle pulling him from the bike. He could hear Lily, some distance away, yelling his name as Weathervane brought its face close to his, the drill spinning in anticipation as it drew closer to his eye. No! Something clinked off its head and flashed briefly. The drill stopped and it looked up confused. In that moment, Jake scrambled out of its grip and felt the object that had hit under its hand. Having fallen to the road, a phone, Lily's phone. He scooped it up as he grabbed his bike. By now, Weathervane was recovering what senses a pile of garbage had and tried to lunge at him again, but Jake held the bike like a shield between him and the monster, blocking its swipes until more projectiles came. Lily was grabbing chunks of concrete and rocks and throwing them. She'd never tried out for the softball team, but considering her accuracy, Jake told himself that if they got out of here alive, she should consider it. A nice large piece caught Weathervane right under what should have been its chin, and even though it likely couldn't feel pain, the force threw it off balance and toppled onto its back. Jake swung his bike back to the road and hopped on, pedaling as fast as he could. He waited to see if the metal claws would wrap themselves around his leg again, but after nothing happened for a few seconds, he chanced to look back. Weathervane was being helped up by Sharpie, and as Wheelie came up behind them, all three seemed to stare daggers at them despite having no eyes. Lily, trying to keep moving as fast as she could without leaving Jake behind, called back, "We need to tell somebody! They've got to be stopped!" Jake didn't answer. He just nodded, mostly to himself, and kept pedaling. And then we've got another story break, but it's about halfway through the story, so we're going to take a break. We're going to do our typing redeem, and I'm going to be speedy because there's still so much story to do and not that much time. So, okay. Let's get this to typing. Let's go. I'm spooking. This is good. This is a good story. And there was our typing. Hello, dude. Oh my gosh. Was it you that recommended that one? Let me just check something. There was a story that we had read, and I was flabbergasted. If it will load. I think so. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's check. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's not loading. Why is nothing loading? I want to jump back into story, but I wanted to... It was something that you not too long ago suggested. Yep. 7052. What the hell did you do to me? What the hell did you do to me? Also, eulogy in 11/8 time. I felt like some of the trigger warnings you gave for me on that didn't seem to come up. I was like, huh? I'm wondering if maybe we had a different understanding of it, but it probably the same. I feel like I missed something, but I didn't? Anyway. But we read those just last stream, and now it's up on YouTube, so you can go check it out. Put that away. We're gonna jump back into the story now, though. We had a very short trigger redeems break because this is a long story, and I want to read it all. Thunk as the water hits the bottom of that water bottle, and I'm gonna get back to the story. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, it's wild. That one was wild. Okay. We go back to parts. Okay. It picks back up with parts, part 2. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Picks back up with. And there's 3 of them. Yes, and they built a 4th. Detective Wilson, sitting behind his desk, covered with old magazines, a computer that was way too old and bulky to fit properly on it, and more coffee rings than should frankly have existed, put his head in his hands and gave an audible groan. You kids do realize this is Saturday night and you should be bothering your parents with this stuff, right? It's true. We have footage. We have them doing it. Jake held up Lily's phone, and it's all right here. He placed the phone down on the desk, where slivers of the plastic casing crumbled off. Detective Wilson flipped it over, noting the cracked and dented screen. He clicked the power button a few times, at which point the screen flickered, then turned an unhealthy combination of green and white. Yes, I see. I'm assuming this also had the names of JFK conspiracy, the missing Watergate minutes, and the original ending of It's a Beautiful Life on it, right? Okay, screw you. The content warning page was very funny. I did giggle at that for a minute. Okay, sorry. This story. Gotta focus. Jake and Lily both gave him confused looks, because they don't know what the heck you're referring to. Jeez, you kids have the internet. Use it to look up something other than YouTube for once. Oh, screw you, Mr. Detective Man. Lily shook her head. Look, I know my phone is broken, but you have to believe us. These things are out of the junkyard, and who knows what they're up to. You have to stop them before they hurt somebody. Detective Wilson hefted the phone for a minute, then put it back on the desk and slid it over to Lily. Can't run an investigation on a broken phone and some hearsay. Though I will admit, it'd make a good story, kids. It makes more sense than this suicide thing everyone else is saying. But the day I believe in walking junk piles is the day I jump into the lake off the Lakota Bridge. So that's something he's going to do later, I think. Anyway, though still seeming sarcastic, Jake noticed the detective looking at them with pity? Sorrow? Apology? If only the phone hadn't been so beat up when Lily threw it at Weathervane, it may have gone differently. The detective sighed, grabbing his coat and standing. Come on, get your bikes. I'll get you two a ride home. You're not in trouble or anything, but unless you have very understanding parents, I should probably call them before you show up in their driveway in an unmarked police car. It has a break, and it picks back up with Not far from the junkyard, Lester Humphreys was both thankful for the job. Oh my gosh, thankful the job was done and wishing he was 20 years younger and 100 pounds lighter as the refrigerator went to the curb with a clunk. Even with the dolly cart to wheel it out, his back was screaming at him. But it was time. The refrigerator was from the Carter administration, a relic from when he was a teenager, but it had gone with him through moving out of his parents' house, through the apartment when he dropped out of college, to the house he shared with 3 other guys when he went back into college to get a useful degree, to the colonial he now lived in alone. He never thought family was all that important, but his love of video games, and how good he still was at them even in his mid-50s, filled that gap just fine. Waddling back to the front door, he went into the kitchen, where his new Amana stainless steel with an ice cube dispenser, digital display, and who knows how many other gadgets up his sleeve waited for him to view it in all its glory. He smiled, retrieved his 3rd bag of Cheetos for the night, poured himself a tall glass of filtered refrigerator water, and sat down at his TV for some online shooting madness. His squad racked up 20 fine kills and subsequent teabaggings. When there was a loud knock on his front door. Well, maybe not so much of a knock as the sound of something loud clanging against it. Whipping off his headphones, he got up and looked out the front room window. He didn't see anyone, but something was very odd. His old refrigerator was gone off the curb. Occasionally, garbage pickers would nab something they could salvage for cheap, but that old thing, who would want that? There was another thud at the front door. Still no sign of anybody that he could see, but then again the front stoop was difficult to see from here. He went over to the door. Oh no. Sorry. He went over to the door and opened it. His old fridge had been moved right onto his welcome rug. He sighed. Damn neighborhood kids messing with stuff. It wasn't the first time he'd had pranks pulled on him, especially involving food, but moving furniture that weighed almost as much as he did was a first. All right, who's out there? Very funny. Now you can haul this old piece of junk back out to the curb where He was cut off as the cord for the fridge leapt up and wrapped itself around his neck. In shock, he fell over, and as the cord tightened, he watched in fear as his fridge hopped its way closer to him, the freezer door opening and shutting like an angry mouth. It hopped past him towards the kitchen, and though he could barely breathe, he tried to call for help. All he could manage was a gag, though, as the fridge pulled him along the floor towards the kitchen, though to what end he did not know. And then it breaks again, and it picks up at. Lily and Jake sat in silence as Detective Wilson drove them home. In the back of the car, the door didn't have handles on the inside, and a metal plate separated them from the driver's seat, and there was not much to do except stew over what they had seen. Jake, we have to do something. I know, but there's not exactly a whole lot we can do here, and what should we do exactly? They're made of metal. I don't think a gun would work on them. A bazooka? Where are we going to get a bazooka on this island at this time of night? Fine, you can be funny about this all you want, but there's got to be a way to stop them. Lily turned back and looked out the window as the houses went by. Between you and me, we've watched enough horror movies. They have to have a weakness. The radio in the front buzzed to life. Detective Wilson, sir? Detective Wilson sighed and grabbed the microphone. Larry, you're supposed to say, Unit 5, come in, Unit 5, respond. But you're the only one other than me on duty, sir. You can still be professional. This is Unit 5, responding now. Over. I was just driving down the 1700 block of Powhatan Drive, sir. We have a report of disturbing sounds at 1774 by a neighbor. Hello, Suinova. Welcome in. We're in the middle of a spooky story. There's not much time. I have to go. Okay. There's disturbing sounds at 1774 by a neighbor, and I've arrived at the scene. It's interesting, sir. I'll be there in a moment. Wilson checked his GPS. Damn, it's way closer. He turned to Jake and Lily. Will your parents mind if we make a quick stop at a potential crime scene before I take you home? It should only be a few minutes because I'll make Larry do all the work. And then there's another break, and it picks back up with, and this is where I found him. Little hard to miss, eh, Larry? I wouldn't joke, sir. A man has just died. It's called gallows humor, Larry. It's what morticians use to get through the fact that they handle corpses all day. I prefer romantic comedy, sir. I'm sure you do, but you're telling me that you can't find anything funny about a guy pushing 400 bills having been done in by a refrigerator falling on him? Okay, we don't need to make fat jokes. I'm on Larry's side. You're very mean, sir. Okay. What could be seen of Lester Humphreys were his arms and legs splayed out on either side of his brand new Amana refrigerator, which now, I knew it was going to be this. I knew it was going to be that the old fridge was going to say, I'm going to kill you with your replacement for me. Okay, anyway. The brand new Amana refrigerator, which now lay on top of him at an angle that could only be described as fatal. More could be seen of the refrigerator's contents, which spilled out this way and that, all over the floor. Detective Wilson had never seen so many bags of Totina's pizza rolls. Can we do anything about the water dispenser? I guess Detective Wilson never went to Costco, I guess. Anyway, sir, can we do anything about the water dispenser? You could probably reach in to turn it off, sir, but that'd be tampering with evidence. It's tampering with me being able to stand up on this tile, but my question is, why would somebody hook up a water line and fill a brand new refrigerator full of food without unhooking the old one? They both turned to look in the cubby where it was likely the Amana had been standing. In the space, a small antique-style refrigerator sat in that spot, the plug hooked up and buzzing away with a rattle that suggested its time had come and gone. Wilson thought for a moment. He looked over to where the TV was and saw a PlayStation 4 hooked up to it. Excuse me a moment, Larry. I have to check something. And the story breaks. I think our detectives believe in the children. Believe the children. I guess teenagers. Believe the teenagers. They're not crazy. Jake and Lily sat in the car, Jake flicking the back of the car seat. I don't know. Just felt like flicking stuff because he's flicking. Okay. Lily picking at the lining where a door handle ought to have been him. When the detective flew out of the front door of the house. I like the juxtaposition that you're giving us, that they're just like super freaking bored, just like tapping stuff and scratching at it and kind of popping that, and then just screaming detective out the door. Okay. Detective flew out the front door of the house and opened their door. Do either of you have a cable for a phone to hook it up to something? I have an idea, but I haven't used a game console since the days of Super Nintendo. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out the cable and the backup battery. What do you need? I need you to see if the memory card on that phone still works, and to promise me you won't look in the kitchen. They're gonna look in the kitchen. A few minutes later, and everyone, including Larry, watched on as parts came to life on Lester Humphrey's big screen TV as Lily played the video from her mostly useless phone. Jake felt his heart lift. So what do we do now? Wilson pulled out his own phone. Now we contact the rest of the police force and get them to put together something to fight back. He put his phone on speaker, dialing the police chief. Hello? Brian Alquist speaking. Hello, Chief. We have an emergency. We have to get everyone to the station. There's... He paused for a moment. A riot that started near the junkyard. We'll need to initiate lockdown and... 1 second, Jim. Honey, can you turn down the old TV? I can barely hear the phone. Honey, what is... There was a second of a door smashing open and screams of terror as Chief Brian Olquist encountered something on the other end of the phone that was blaring the theme from Happy Days at top volume. Happy Days. Sorry. Then the screams ended while the music continued. Well, damn. Wilson hung up the phone. Okay, maybe we might be on our own. Ignoring his own advice, he looked into the kitchen, where the old refrigerator stood, buzzing away, unmerrily to itself. And we should probably get out of here quickly. Something else is going on here besides your little junkyard monsters, and I don't like the look of that refrigerator. As if in response, there was a grinding noise. And though it might have just been a trick of the eyes, the little refrigerator seemed to turn towards them ever so slightly. Jake gulped. But then something crossed his mind. Hey, you think, Nathan, that the general store might know something? Do you think that Nathan at the general store might know something? I mean, he sells weird folklore stuff all the time. Maybe he could give us an idea. I mean, the big monster was shouting something about revenge and all. What kind of revenge might that be? Lily frowned. Speaking of which, where is that thing now? The story breaks and picks back up. Oh, we're going back to the asshole, Jules Riley. I hope you don't live. We didn't need to hurt the big guy. That guy didn't need to be hurt as far as I'm aware. The old crotchety man. I mean, you're the one that was insulting all the parts, so kinda. But Jules? Yeah, we can hurt Jules. I think I'm on board. He's an asshole. Okay. I'm waiting for us to figure out how this is happening. Because, like, the way that the junks are all coming back to life is inconsistent. I want to know what's doing it. Jules Riley loved Saturday nights. It was when really fine dining, in quotes, did its best. Which I guess is his thing? I don't know. And he loved shaking hands with as many people as he could. At least those who could afford to eat there. Oh, no, that's his restaurant, I guess. Tonight the mayor of Lakota City had come from hustle and bustle of the mainland, and he knew it would be a good idea to rub elbows with her. Maybe if he played his cards right, it could mean the right legislation could open up a whole new frontier beyond the Tri-County area, maybe even statewide. The thought made him salivate even more than the steaks were doing to his customers. He wiped his mouth neatly with a handkerchief before he sat down to greet her. Hello, Mayor, and may I say, that's a lovely dress you have on. Yes, it's a loaner until I get the one I planned on wearing back from the cleaners. The mayor took a bite out of her salad. Huh? Why do you not have your own dress? Oh, anyway. Incident during a coal mine opening. Never stand too close to the entrance, even for a photo op. And what may I do for you? Nothing. I'm just here to enjoy the company of the people. Yes, I say that too, especially when I'm looking for something. Let me guess, you want to grow beyond the Tri-County area, and you could use my help in landing some valuable friends in higher places. Is that it? I can see why you got into politics, Madame Mayor. You do. I thought I got into it for the free steaks. She gave him a very pointed look. I see. Very well. It's a pleasure to have spoken with you, and may you have a... And that was when the screaming began. It took a moment before the rest of the restaurant noticed it, but when they finally did, their attention was drawn to the front wall, which consisted entirely of plate glass. One of the valet drivers was at the far end of the parking lot, backing up and screaming at something that appeared to be coming down the street. He began hurriedly digging through keys on the valet hook and finding one. Seemed like he was going to drive off in somebody's car, until a car veered off the road and smashed into him. Not the valet! He's not paid enough for this. The top of the car looked sheared off, a clean cut. Where the driver was, nobody could see. Gasps and shrieks came from the patrons as they watched in horror as something roughly 10 feet tall came stomping around the corner. It appeared to be a robot of some kind, built out of all kinds of junkyard parts. Voices started to chime in. What is that thing? Who's running it? They ought to be arrested. Whatever it is, it looks like it belongs in a scrap heap. Everyone else just pulled out their phones and started recording, all except one. Jules Riley recognized that washer that made up its chest, and chances are whatever was going on, it was going to come back and haunt him in a big way. No one was going to ruin this night for him, not in front of the mayor. Jules rushed his way out into the parking lot, approaching the hulking creation as it stomped its foot down on the sliced car, smashing it flat to the ground. Now look here, you! What the fuck are you doing, Jules, you dumbass? The creature heard him and stopped, glowering at him with its frowning expression. It held its knife tightly, and its buzzsaw hand twitched a few times. Look, you've already endangered enough people, especially on my property. Leave now, and nobody has to get hurt. Then, sure enough, people had heard him. He spoke more quietly. I don't know if that's remote control or there's somebody inside there, but I promise you $500 if you dump that washing machine in the lake. No questions asked. Got it? Parts looked at him for a moment. Then buzzsaw on its hand came to life. Da-da-da. The story breaks and we pick up. Nathan's general store was open 24/7, but the owner was usually only there nights and weekends. In his late 60s, Nathan Whitetail, a wrinkled but generally pleasant fellow of Ojibwe descent, was always ready with a story, a recommendation of the latest comics, or willing to share a beer with anyone 18 and older, of course. That would sit and look out over the lake with him. Hello, Divide, we're doing good. Thankfully, he was there when Detective Wilson, Jake, and Lily pulled up. He came out the front door with its jangly bell ringing and came down the wooden steps to greet them. Hi there, Jim. Good to see you, but shouldn't you drop off the delinquents before we get something to drink? He then took a closer look at the children. Oh, hi, Jake, Lily. Getting into trouble with the law now, are we? Wilson shook his head. Oh, God, I've won. I'm so sorry, Devon. Your numbers are not doing good today. Wilson shook his head. No, Nathan. It's about something more. We need to know something of the history of the island, ancient legends and things. Nathan blinked at him. So you came to find the only Indian on the island to ask if he knows something about ancient legends? Good point. I don't like it. I'm glad you called it out, Nathan. Wilson waved his hand around the shop. No, I came to find the guy who sells knickknacks he claims are ancient history, and each has a story about it. Either, or nobody knows it. Jake nodded. Yeah, you had that skinwalker I bought last week. Is there anything like that? Nathan rubbed his chin. There's really not much. The place was a good fishing spot, but it wasn't reputed to be haunted or anything like that. He went over to the antique Coke refrigerator, the kind built like a freezer, and got drinks out for everybody. You go to the mainland. There you get your stories about spooks, goblins, skinwalkers, wendigos. Here it was just a place to fish and dump off your canoe when it got too many holes in it. Lily popped open her Coke, and I'm thinking the same thing, Lily, but stopped before she put it to her lips. Wait, what? What was that last part about the canoe? Oh yeah, people dropped off their old junk here all the time. Big woods in the northern part of the island, easy to leave stuff, and it'd either fall apart, get eaten by the wildlife, or just vanish into the underbrush. Then, of course, back in the 80s, they tore it all out and put in the subdivision. I think that old man McConnell owns the spot where it all used to happen. Lucy slapped her head. Oh my God! I had to slap my head. Oh my God, of course, that's why it wants revenge. The Coke fridge made a rattling sound, and Nathan hit it with the palm of his hand. It quieted down. What wants revenge? This town was built on an ancient Indian junkyard. Instead of graveyard, because that's the typical annoying trope. It's a graveyard. No, it's a junkyard. And don't you get it? Nobody respects their old stuff. It's all just junk, and they throw it out. It wants revenge on the people who've abandoned it so carelessly. Everyone looked at Lily like she had been drinking from the collection of bottles Nathan kept. Oh my gosh. Nathan kept behind the counter. What? It makes sense, doesn't it? Jake smiled. Well, yeah, it still sounds funny when you put it that way. But it still sounds funny that way. Nathan looked at Wilson. You sure these kids don't need to be put away or something? Just overnight until they sober up? The Coke fridge rattled again, and Nathan slapped it again until it stopped. Wilson shook his head. I've seen it too. As crazy as it all sounds, it's real. Well, maybe all you need is just a prayer or two, and it should send the creatures back to rest. Oh my gosh. I'm guessing that this is a little story. I can't really see it, but I'll read that later. Okay. Well, maybe all you need is a prayer or two, something to send the creatures back to rest. You'll have to give me a minute to remember. It's all part of the oral history stuff I did growing up. Nathan started reciting something in Ojibwe slowly and with great thought behind it. When the fridge acted up again, he groaned and went to give it another smack. To his surprise, the lid opened up of its own accord. Thrown off balance, he fell face first into it. As the lid came up and down on him like a demonic maw, he screamed until even his leather boots were slurped inside before the lid slammed down completely, locking itself. Jake, Lily, and Wilson all stared at the refrigerator until the wheeled frame turned toward them, the smiling Santa on the top holding the glass beaming at them. Then the machine lid opened but briefly, and a monstrous belch came out. They hurried outside and back to the police car. They all jumped in, barely closing the doors before peeling out onto the road, the sounds of a roaring Coke fridge fading away behind them. Why'd we gotta kill Nathan? Fridge, he didn't even try to get rid of you. Why'd you do that? Ugh. Jake gulped down a few breaths. No prayers, no help. We are just going to have to get out of town. Lily wiped her eyes. But we can't let what happened to Nathan happen to everyone else. We have to evacuate. But as Wilson drove them through the neighborhood, they could see people fleeing their homes, their old, unloved, and broken appliances coming for them. In the window of one home, they saw a woman dressed in a sports bra fighting with a blender that was somehow attacking her with a bag of weight loss powder. Wilson checked the GPS. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do for them ourselves. I got nobody waiting for me at home, so the best I can do is get you to your parents and hope they are okay. We're going to have to go through Midtown, so fingers crossed that we can make it. More chaos erupted as old water heaters chased people down the street. Rusted lawnmowers ran without gas to run over their former masters. Oh gosh, that's gotta be grisly. And the less said about bicycles with broken spokes, the better. They eventually reached a place with fewer houses and more quaint shop fronts. Wilson slammed on the brakes. I think we found out what happened to your friend. In the middle of a large intersection, the thing they knew as Parts stood, face raised to the sky, arms up in triumph. It seemed bigger than it had been, but it may be because it was standing now surrounded by much smaller creatures. Sharpie, Wheelie, and Weathervane sat underneath it, oblivious to all but their God might have been going too far, but something close to it. It was Lily that noticed it first, though. What's that in his washing machine? They all looked closer and saw, sticking out of the open door, a foot with a very expensive shoe spinning lazily around. Ew. Wilson squinted. Call me crazy, but I think Jules Riley wears those. But isn't he a really tall guy? He couldn't possibly fit in. They all looked at each other and frowned deeply. Can we get past them? Wilson sighed. I don't think so. So I think we have to go with Plan B. Do you know how to get home from here? Jake looked around. Yeah, of course. We bike here all the time. Wilson got out of the car, cautious that none of the things in the center of the road noticed him yet, and went to the trunk of the car, unhooking the bikes from where he had tied them down. Once they were loose and on the street, he opened up the back doors. Get on them and wait for my signal. Jake and Lily did so. Lily tried her best not to look at Parts and his brigade. What's the signal? Oh boy. You'll know. Wilson gave them a weak smile, hopped back into the police car, and floored it, aiming straight for Weathervane. Weathervane whirred its drill mouth slightly before the car plowed into him, scattering the bits around the intersection. The other three watched the car as it swerved, gathering itself up again, and drove off. Wheelie and Sharpie jumped onto Parts' back as it stomped after Wilson, its blood-stained saw blade spinning and knife raised. Lily and Jake watched the car as it disappeared around a corner, the creatures in hot pursuit. You think he'll be okay, Jake? I hope so, but... He looked behind them where a man lay on the ground, a soda stream machine firing carbon dioxide directly into his mouth. I think we need to make sure Mom and Dad are okay, too. And the story breaks. My lawnmower sucks. The fuck is it going to do to me? Stall in the tall grass? Considering they're all, like, able to move magically, like, maybe they'll be able to do stuff they didn't used to do, you know? I mean, they ate Nathan. That's not a fridge thing. Okay. Picks back up with, they pulled up to the house. There was a light on in the family room, but other than that, the house appeared quiet. Looking at each other, Jake and Lily pulled their bikes up to the side of the house and parked them next to the new car. They checked the side door, unlocked. They opened the door, looking around cautiously. The light in the front room was on, but it appeared that there had been a struggle. I'm guessing the old car is what's going to be the problem. The floor lamp had been knocked over, and the couch moved to block the opposite doorway, and the TV showed a blank blue screen. They turned towards the kitchen, and that was when the old corded power drill fell from the ceiling, wrapping itself around Lily's neck. Oh, never mind! It lifted itself toward her face, the bit whirring as it closed in on her scalp, but she grabbed hold of the handle and pulled it back. Jake grabbed the cord on her neck and started unraveling it, and between the two of them, they got it free. Scrambling away as they threw it to the floor, it crawled after them, continuing to whir at high speed. The shadow came from the kitchen, and in one swift move, a figure dropped a bucket on top of it. It buzzed and whirred, but it mostly rattled uselessly against the metal prison. The figure, on the other hand, disheveled and bleeding from his forehead, grunted and smiled at Jake and Lily. "Dad!" They both ran over and helped him up. He stumbled unsteadily, grabbing the wound on his head. "It's okay, I'll live, I think. But that old toaster of ours jumped at me and knocked me for a loop. What about you two? Are you hurt?" Jake shook his head. "We're fine, really. What about Mom?" Dad stomped on the bucket, which the drill reacted to with more inept struggling. "The thing got her in the leg. Lucky she isn't bleeding out, but she can't walk right. She was in the kitchen with me." "Is that the kids, honey? Are they all right? Are they all right?" "Yes, but we need to get you out of here." Lily and Jake held open the side door as Dad helped Mom limp to the back seat of their new car. "This is where it's going to go bad. This is going to be the car." They all piled in. Dad put his foot on the brake to press the starter button when he swooned. His head hit the steering wheel, making the car horn honk. Jake put his hand on his dad's shoulder. "You okay?" I think that hit to the head may have been worse than I thought." He handed the keys to Jake. "You should drive. Get us out of here." After a moment or two, getting Dad in the back seat with Mom, both holding each other's hands and reassuring the other all would be okay, Lily got in the passenger seat as Jake turned on the car. It made a wonderful sound as it did. The digital display, the climate control, the Sirius XM subscription, all things he would have to wait on enjoying until they got out of this place. He knew where the bridge was, and they had to hurry if they were going to get there. Who knows how many people were already on it, slowing things down. The story breaks and picks back up. Things were quiet at McClinston's used cars, surprisingly. The lights were out, and very little wandered the glassed-in halls, human or junk, other than the occasional passing traffic. No one had any reason to be concerned. Until a brand-new black sedan drove by, heading towards the only bridge out of town. One shape then stirred, its smashed wheel wall and bent tire squeaking as it pulled itself, almost like an injured puppy, out of the lot and into the road, watching the shape go off into another neighborhood and disappear. Its headlights came on, and the motor turned with a sound like a growl. If a 97 Corolla could glare, this one definitely tried. I knew the car would be the big problem. The bridge was only a few hundred feet away. The story broke and picked back up again. This bridge was only a few hundred feet away. Jake was proud of himself for keeping on the road as well as he had, even though he wished his parents were awake to see it. They had both passed out in the back seat, both snoring loudly. "You think we should wake them, Jake? I thought you shouldn't sleep if you have a concussion." "If you can wake them up, then go ahead, but I've never been able to get them moving when they are snoring like that." The sign for the bridge was up ahead. By habit, Jake hit the turn signal as they approached, despite no one being near. That did make him a little uneasy. Why was nobody here? Surely they weren't the only ones who made it and were trying to get off the island. He made the turn onto the bridge, and he saw why. The 2-mile bridge, which extended to the mainland, was littered with cars, tossed onto their sides, their hulls ripped open by what Jake assumed was a large saw blade. No person could be seen anywhere, not hiding, not hitchhiking, not stumbling their way to freedom. Jake drove a little ways further onto the bridge and saw another reason. Further down the way, there seemed to be something moving, but it wasn't a person. A wall of discarded junk had either formed or had been placed across the roadway. A number of cars appeared to have backed up and tried to escape, only to be overtaken by a fridge here, a used weed wiper there, weed something, destroyer there. There was no telling how thick the wall was, but it was clear that the plan was not to let anyone escape. For the first time, Lily began to breathe hard in panic. They're not going to let us leave. Jake put the car into reverse, when suddenly there was a bright beam of light that shone into the car. They both turned to look back. Behind them, a vehicle on a dented wheel revved its engine menacingly, its headlights pouring light into the car. Jake, is that? As if in answer, the car behind them honked. It was not the most frightening honk, as a 97 Corolla was not capable of something deep and bowel-shaking, but it was enough. Lily, hold on. Lily, already buckled, held on tight as Jake slammed on the accelerator. The car flew backwards, the Corolla almost backing up as they nearly hit it. Jake looked at Lily. Sorry, I didn't mean to reverse. He threw the car into drive and floored the accelerator again. The wall of junk waved at them, sensing a new victim. Lily braced for impact, then jolted to the side as Jake pulled the car to the left, towards a vehicle that had been overturned, twisted at an angle. The new sedan ramped up onto the car, and instead of blasting through the wall, Jake drove it mostly over the top, running over the blockade and down it again. It sloped down to it at a gentle sloped down at a gentle enough angle that when they hit the bridge again, only a few sparks came from the car scraping. Lily laughed. Jake, that was amazing! I'd do it again if we weren't in the middle of... There was a horrible scrunching noise, and they turned to look behind them once more. The Corolla had the same idea. As beaten as it was, it didn't land quite as gracefully, but continued to chase them, gaining on them despite the low 0 to 60 power of the several-decade-old machine. The mainland was nowhere near close enough yet. There was no sign of anyone on the other side of the bridge, and Jake could only imagine being a stunt driver for so long. Power word. Scrunch. He still kept the accelerator down, pushing the car to 80, 90, 100. The wheel was starting to slide around a little in his hands at this speed. If they crashed, they would be done for. The Corolla somehow kept gaining, the V6 engine giving it all, to murder those who had abandoned it at the car lot. And then they saw it, coming too. Also, along with the car. It ran so quickly. Parts was carrying the two remaining of its faithful servants, was chasing them as well, coming up behind the little Corolla, buzzsaw raised high. There was no sign of Detective Wilson's car. Just keep going, Jake. We have to try. Jake saw the dash read 110 and looked over to see the sign that read, You are now leaving Lakota City. We hope you had a wonderful time. Wasn't this where Dad got run into the siding, coming the other way? It was a long shot, but they were running out of options. Jake crossed the median into the oncoming lane. Jake! It's okay, Lily. I have an idea. With the high beams on, he looked ahead. Even as he accelerated, it would be coming up any moment. There, the protective barrier on the side of the bridge, busted up, damaged, probably very dangerous to hit again. Jake swerved over and hit the brakes hard. The Corolla sped up behind, not expecting the hard swerve, and slowed down. It came alongside. Jake took one last, long look at the car. He had fond memories of it, riding to friends' houses, going to school and the store. It was like a part of the family in many ways. He quietly wished it well before he swung the wheel over and sideswiped it into the barrier. The barrier gave way and the Corolla plunged down into the darkness of the lake, where it bobbed for a second or two before dropping out of sight. The relief was short-lived as the slowed vehicle was suddenly pulled from behind, the wheels finding no purchase as the back end was lifted into the air. The 12-foot-tall being behind them still held its knife and its buzzsaw spinning, but Sharpie had jammed its fingers into their back bumper, and with Parts' leverage, they held the car and pulled it closer and closer to certain doom. Damn it. Sorry. Hello, yes, it's going well. I'm right. There's only so much time left because I'm not doing a full stream tonight. So I'm trying to go quick. But okay. So they're being pulled closer to certain doom. With rear-wheel drive, the car couldn't do anything to pull away from their grip. They only watched with fear as the knife-wielding monster lifted it, ready to drive it over and over again through the windows. A siren sounded. Jake and Lily looked up at Parts, but didn't see where anyone had put a siren on him. And then Parts twisted. I knew it would be. Then Parts twisted to one side as an unmarked car slammed into it from behind. The vehicle, dinged and cut to ribbons, continued to press into Parts as Detective Wilson, bleeding heavily and limping, jumped out, pulling out a gun and firing it into Parts. The creature dropped the sedan, at which point Jake peeled away. They watched in the rearview mirror, and unwilling to turn and watch as Sharpie hopped off and ran towards Wilson. With one final blast of his handgun, the detective tumbled backwards over the bridge and vanished into the water below. You shouldn't have made that joke about the day you believe it is the day you go into the river, 'cause there you go, you went into the river. That's your own dang fault. I'm sorry you're dead. Well, probably dead. They saw Sharpie and Parts set their eyes on them again and begin to chase, the car still unable to make up distance between them no matter how fast they went. This time, though, the mainland was in sight, only a few hundred more feet or so, and they would be among civilization, or at least what civilization existed just on the other side. Jake tried to remember what else besides the gas station and the liquor store sat over there. Lily looked back. Jake, I know, I'm going as... No, it's Parts. He stopped. And he had. Parts, with wheelie still swinging from his shoulders, had stopped maybe 100 feet or so behind. Sharpie, on the other hand, had not, and was still in hot pursuit, but Parts seemed to be reaching for him, and then it spoke once more. Stop. S-T-O-P. They reached the edge of the bridge, and Jake turned the corner before he, too, noticed something. Parts hadn't been speaking to them. He slowed the car and pulled to a stop. Lily got out first, and they went back to the end of the bridge. Sharpie lay in a heap, having tripped on the road, but the further he crawled, the more the bits that made him up began to fall off. Though it did not likely feel pain, it still fought and struggled as if it fell apart piece by piece to reach them, even as it fell apart piece by piece to reach them, the sheer hatred and anger forcing it forward. They stayed a healthy distance away, but it was Lily that said it first. They can't leave the island. Whatever keeps them alive, it's there. They looked in the distance down the bridge, and though Parts remained in place, its unchanging expression still one of anger, its stance suggested a sort of sadness as well. All that remained of Sharpie was one arm, a shoulder, and a connection to its head, and then it slumped, all movement ending, and its sharpened claws rolled toward them, unliving once more. Jake and Lily looked at the pieces, kicking them away before getting back in the car. And the story breaks and picks up with... It was an interesting end to the summer in Lakota City. The small but fairly robust little island town became a legend in less than a day. All the inhabitants vanished into seemingly thin air overnight, including the mayor and several key members of the local council. Well, not all the inhabitants. Patrolman Larry Bedlow was found in a canoe, with his uniform in tatters, floating in the lake the next morning. He claimed he was leaving a crime scene when he was forced to divert the marina due to, in his words, an enraged gang of motorcycles. When asked what gang did it, he simply laughed and said he was planning to go into teaching. A family also escaped, and the two children, Jake and Lily, were interviewed at the hospital where their parents were recuperating from serious but not life-threatening injuries. They said the whole town had gone crazy, and other than that, they didn't give out much information about what they had experienced. They just recommended that no one go to the island anytime soon because there might be a biohazard leak or something like in a zombie movie. They did mention that there was a chance a Detective Jim Wilson may still be alive, but as of now, a search of the lake has turned up no body. Oh. So far, investigations of Lakota City have been brief, but the place appears to have become completely deserted, the streets filled with garbage and other debris. There have been reports of some salvage crew vanishing, and so for the time being, the island has been made restricted to mainland visitation. However, there is word that occasionally something can be seen walking around by the patrol boats that go by. Something larger than a person, something with long, dangling arms. Something armed with many, many sharp things. Doo-doo-doo-doo. The end. And hello, Raiders. Welcome in. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be leaving soon, so this is poorly timed. I need to figure out doing the don't raid me button, because I've heard that that's a thing. Because I'm so sorry, but I will be leaving soon. But thank you so much. Hello, all of you. Vampire Raid. Hello. And thank you, Vexing Cat. You can disappear, eat, take care of yourself whenever you need. Sorry for the poor timing. Oop. But thank you for showing up. I appreciate it anyway. You guys are so cute. Look at that. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back to all the messages that I was kind of ignoring because there was so much story to go through. For a record, that was a reference from an old horror game. Oh, the Bankarok thing. You're a massive nerd, but an unscrunched nerd. And don't you forget it. I want to try out that. And then where was the big... Oh, yes. This is for the Nat 1 that D-Vod rolled, right? D-Vod walked into the mysterious forest to try and find a date for the Saturday night dance. He proceeded, in his fatigue, to flirt with a tree. Fortunately for him, it turned out to be inhabited by a beautiful dryad spirit. Unfortunate for him, she questioned his intelligence, considering it was a Wednesday, not Saturday. She turned him down and told all other creatures and humanoids residing in the woods to avoid him for a time. He winds up eating at Burger King with an ordinary garter snake. Snake? Ordinary garter S. I make me think snake. Oh, wow. Thank you for the follow, Vexing Cat. Thank you for the follow, Almontis VT. Thank you for the follow, Kintrin Valgrige. And we drop a dance emote for every one of our new friends. So here's one for the first, for Vexing Cat. Oh, cooperate. There we go. 2 and 3. They didn't go into separate messages, but that's close enough. Yeah, we do origami streams, but not during October. We're doing spooky stories selectively, just that for October. That's our little theme lately, so that's what we're gonna do. Thank you for the hydrate and posture check, Divide, even though it was 27 minutes ago. I was really in the story. Aw, thank you, Andy. Okay. Do my stretch. Divide requested. Ooh, okay. Oh, but that was a good story. It was parts from Creepypasta, and we only read the one because it was long. But it was so good. I liked it. I like this author a lot. This author's a very good author. You get a 10. You get a 10 out of 10, friend. Good job. The Woman on Sticks is the other one I recommend. I gotta go back and give that 10 out of 10 too. Just freaking good. Just freaking good. They're good. Okay. With that said, I'm not gonna be streaming again until Sunday. Yeah, it was great minus the editing problems. I got little hiccups here and there because I got stumbled, but I see what they were saying. I'm gonna call that 10 out of 10 for Creepypasta. That's 10 out of 10. I'm gonna be streaming on Sunday. Like I said, I'm not gonna be streaming until then. But we will be back. We'll pick up with SCP since this was a Creepypasta. And that was a crisp 2 hours. It was. We nailed it. But before I go, I'm gonna do brushes again because that was a redeem that was from ages ago. So we'll do some brushes. We'll do a little cozy couple of triggers. But I'm gonna pick the next couple. Don't put them in just because I feel like then we're going to have 15 and I'm going to be stuck here for a while. I'll just do a couple of cozy little things. And then we'll wrap up for the evening. If you are here, Fett, because I'm pretty sure I saw you, drop our who will raid in a minute. I'm going to do brushes now, though. So let's do brushes before we wrap up. Here we go. Okay, gotta remove the little mic thing. You're naked. The mic. Okay. Okay, there was brushes. We're gonna get the cover back on. It's gonna go pop. Book. Ah, yes, that explains it. Aha, thank you, Do. That explains all of that better. Comb to the twing. Here we go. There was comb twing, and then I'm gonna wrap up with keys before we are done. And there was keys. Okay, Vet, do we have our raid target? Where are we going? Now hit us with... our raid messages. You can quickly copy them. There you go. I will not be back tomorrow. My next stream will be Sunday. But then I'll be back for a few days. It looks like we do not have something from... Oh! Do you have a raid? I do not. I was asking if you did, because you usually do, but I was about to go look in myself. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Aha! Yes, that's a good move. They just started. Perfect. Because we have accidentally someone else that raided into us, so it's perfect to send them. Marvelous. That's a perfect. Okay. We're gonna raid over, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciated the raid. I'll be back on Sunday, like I've said. We'll be doing SCPs, and then the next days will be Creepypasta, and then back to SCP, and then the week after that, you know, the back and forth and the back and the forth. It'll be like that. Oh! Is everything okay? Oh yeah, that's just a my end weirdness. Ugh. Okay. So here we go. Eat well, or happy time zone, whatever time zone you're in. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Let's go.